So my anxiety story begins at a very young age. I can remember being around the age of 4 years old and just being terrified of bedtime, and it was during some of those nights that I remember having my first panic attacks. I would feel this pain in my stomach and nausea to the point where I would sometimes make myself sick. Above all else, I felt an overwhelming sense of doom. I felt that I was going to die and that I needed to escape. But of course, there's no escaping yourself of your own panic attacks. I would cry and protest, but at the time, my parents didn't know why I was acting this way, and neither did I. I was very fortunate because as I grew older and I began to show other symptoms of anxiety, my mother did a large amount of research into childhood anxiety. She read books, and by the time I was 6 years old, had me set up with a psychologist who diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder, separation anxiety, panic disorder, and later with social anxiety and agoraphobia. I met with her once a month for the next 7 years, and while it was helpful to know that my fears had a diagnosable name and was given medication and breathing techniques to use when I had an attack, I felt that I never made significant progress at the time, likely because I was too young and too fearful to discuss my anxiety. In fact, the majority of those years, I was too afraid to talk at all and would make my mom do so instead. These panic attacks caused me to cling to my mother. I wanted her to be with me all the time in case one happened, and while still inconvenient as a child, it began to limit me more and more as I grew older. I feared going to school every day and worried that something would happen to my mom, an earthquake, a car accident, a heart attack. I could not go to friends' houses for sleepovers or have my mom go on road trips without me. At times, I would try, but I nearly always ended up having a panic attack and calling her. This lasted until I was 17 years old, causing me to miss out on many opportunities such as school trips or even day trips that took me farther away from my mom than I was comfortable with. My social anxiety also held me back in many ways as a kid. I can remember trying to talk to new people to the class and being physically unable to speak. As I began my early teens, my anxiety symptoms began to change. I began to fear anxiety so much that I would rarely leave the house for any reasons beside going to school. I feared hanging out with the friends, taking public transit, or leaving the vicinity of my mother, all out of fear that I would have a panic attack. I also stopped all extracurriculars because I feared having to speak to new people. As a result, I lost most of my friends due to a combination of bullying and my anxiety. This caused me to become depressed as I thought I would never be able to do those things again. The scariest thing about panic attacks is that they can occur anytime without warning and that they are always different. The physical symptoms would be any combination of trembling, nausea, chest pain, faintness, dizziness, an inability to swallow, and an inability to breathe in deep enough. As a result, despite my awareness of my anxiety, I have taken several trips to the emergency room throughout my teenage years because I truly believed I was having a heart attack or that there was something wrong with my lungs. I was only after numerous tests over many years found nothing wrong that I started to believe that these symptoms really were due to my panic attacks. So when I was 14 years old, I told my mom I needed to help, and she signed me up at a new therapy clinic where I attended once to twice a week and received a combination of CBT, psychiatry, and group therapy. After a few failed attempts over the next 2 years, I finally found an antidepressant medication that works really well for me and was able to learn many of the skills to cope with my anxiety. While the medication does not eliminate the panic attacks, it helped me to stop them from running my life. I no longer avoid activities I enjoy out of fear that I will have an attack, and I'm so much happier. I am now 20 years old and in my third year of university, which I commute to via public transit, have 2 part-time jobs, volunteer, and thoroughly enjoy spending my time with my friends. There are all things that 5 years ago I truly did not believe were possible for me. Another big step for me was learning not to be embarrassed to tell people about my anxiety. My friends know, my bosses know, and I receive accommodations at university which allow me to know that if anything happens at these places or with these people, they will know what's going on and do everything they can to help me. There will always be bad days and I will likely always have anxiety, but I just have to remind myself that the fear always goes away. I am so thankful for my mom for all the work she's done to help me cope. She's a big part of the reason I am here today and really living life to the fullest.